Okay, welcome, everyone. Welcome to Living Well. Once again, we have some very important topic, a very important topic to discuss today. So I just want to welcome you again as you go through this journey to better health and wholeness for heaven. I just want to welcome everyone far and near. Before we begin, I just want to state our disclaimer. This presentation is for information purpose only. And the topics that are shared, the discussion here today is based on personal experience, from biblical scripture and from research. Our goal is to educate you on the topic, not to assess, diagnose, prescribe, or treat any medical conditions. If you have a specific condition or situation in which you are concerned, you are encouraged to seek advice from your personal physician. Again, this is for educational purpose, and I hope that you enjoy what is going to be presented today. I know we have a big holiday coming up, Thanksgiving. And on Thanksgiving, I know some of us wish that we did not eat because we feel so bad afterwards. So how can we have a healthy Thanksgiving meal and eat to live? That's my topic. A healthy Thanksgiving meal and eat to live. We want to eat foods that are going to give us energy, that is going to nourish the body and encourage the growth of good, healthy cells and tissue. We do not want to eat foods that are going to destroy our body. So how are we going to eat to live? I always like to start with a biblical scripture. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, it says, what? Know ye not that your body is a temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own, for ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Our bodies doesn't belong to us. As a matter of fact, we were bought with a special price. Christ died for us, and he owned us. He owns us, I should say. So therefore, whatever we do, we should do it always to glorify him. And 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do all to the glory of God. We are always supposed to take care of this body so it can glorify God. Because if we put in our bodies food that are not healthy, it affects the mind. How does one correspond with God? Via the mind, through prayers, through talking to him through prayers. So if our minds are not healthy, we will not be able to communicate with our maker. And our purpose here on this earth is to be in contact with our maker. So Thanksgiving is around the corner, and normally our table is packed with all sorts of food. It's full of meats and breads and pies and vegetables. Sometimes these vegetables are doused in fat and stuff that is not healthy. And we start eating. Because we see so much food, what we do? We pile our plates up like a mountain with food. And we eat to our heart's content. And afterwards, we just slump down in that couch, cannot move, and we stay there for the rest of the evening. Now, we all know that's not healthy. But we say that's just one day. That might be so. But that one day could put such an impact on your life, on your health, that you do not realize how much that one day impacts your life. So let us try to every day purpose to do the best we can to eat healthy. Put the foods in our body that will nourish it and not kill the body. but that will help the body to live. So I came up with a typical Thanksgiving meal. My Thanksgiving meal consists of garlic, mashed cauliflower, and gravy. Instead of the mashed potato, we are going to use cauliflower to make our mashed potato. Green beans, it should be green bean casserole, I wanted to say there. Baked sweet potatoes, vegan roast turkey, and a pumpkin pie. So let's see how to make all of these things. Before I continue, I forgot to state, you need to come with pen and paper ready to take notes, because I have some recipes that you would like to take note of. And remember, if you have questions, you can put it in the chat. Or if you want to say your question out loud, that's fine. Also, I just want you to remember that, you know, we are being recorded. Okay, so my first dish is garlic mashed cauliflower. Now I'm going to show you my mashed cauliflower here. Can everyone see this? Now, doesn't this look like mashed potatoes? It looks just like mashed potatoes, and I tell you, I hope you're able to see that. Did everyone see that? This is my mashed potato instead of cauliflower. Instead of mashed potatoes, I used cauliflower. So what did I do? I took 2 heads of cauliflower. They were medium-sized cauliflower, and I cut them. Cut them out, and about this size. I took them apart, and then I put them in a colander and steam it over, and put a pot with water and steam it. The reason why I did that, I did not want to put this cauliflower in water, because it's going to make it too mushy. But this is the consistency. It's still a bit, it's not too soft, but it's soft enough where my fork can take it apart, okay? So I steamed it. And then I got some vegan butter. This butter was made from from different oils, no milk. 3 to 4 garlic. I minced it. And then I add I like to use sea salt to taste, and a pinch of black pepper, and a 1/4 to 1/2 cup of unsweetened plain almond milk. I love coconut milk so much, so instead of the almond milk, I use coconut milk. And you can garnish it with fresh parsley or chives. Now, once you put the cauliflower in the pot, the steamer, you take it off once it's steamed, and you put it in a food processor, and you blend it up. I put half and half in because I want it to be the consistency to be the same throughout. Because if I had put all of that cauliflower in the food processor, some of it would be still chunky. So I put just enough that I can blend it down to a consistency that I wanted. And the consistency, it looks sort of like mashed potatoes. And then I saute some garlic, because I want to give it a garlic flavor in the butter. I did not use 4 tablespoons. I used a bit less. And I sauteed the garlic. In the meantime, I blended my cauliflower, and I took part out and I put the other part in, blended it. And once it was all blended, I added back all to the blender, to the food processor, and then I add my onions or garlic to it. And I put a little salt and pepper. I put salt and pepper, I should say, in the garlic sauce. Then I add that to the cauliflower mix. Now, while it was blending or in the food processor, I slowly added some milk. So I just want to see how much milk I needed. Sometimes you might need more than 1/4 cup. Sometimes you need about 1/2 cup. Just blend it enough so you can come to the consistency of mashed potatoes. You know what mashed potatoes looks like. And something like this. Okay, so that was my cauliflower mashed potato instead of mashed potato. So why did I use cauliflower? Now, cauliflower is a very healthy vegetable. Some of the properties of cauliflower can help fight cancer. It helps with decreasing cancer and inflammation. We know that diseases start with an inflammatory process. It decreases inflammation in the body. It improves digestion. It's also improve the heart. It's good for your heart. It aids in detoxification. You know that we are exposed to all these elements, chemicals around us that we need to keep the body detoxified. So cauliflower helps with that. It also boosts brain health. We need to keep our minds sharp. Cauliflower helps with brain health. Also, it supports someone who is pregnant. It supports healthy pregnancy. And it also aids in weight loss. These are some of the things cauliflower is good for. And there's much more. I just mentioned some of them. So instead of using the mashed potato, cauliflower is a good substitute for the mashed potato, because you know mashed potato is full of carbohydrates. When you take off the skin of the potato, you just left with basically carbohydrates. If you leave the skin on the potato, it's a bit more nutritious than taking the skin off. But when we make mashed potato, we don't leave the skin on, right? We take that skin off. So that's why I chose cauliflower, because it's a healthier version to our cauliflower mashed potato. So our next meal that we usually have, we have gravy. Of course, you have to have gravy for your mashed potato, gravy for your turkey, and all of that. So I used a gravy made from nuts. Brazil nut is a very healthy nut. It's one of the best nuts that we can use. It has selenium. Selenium, you know, we do not have much of that in our food today, but Brazil nuts has lots of selenium. Selenium is good for thyroid health. So I took 1/2 cup of Brazil nuts and I soak it. I like to soak my nuts. So I soaked it overnight, or you can soak it if you maybe forgot to soak it overnight. That morning you wake up, you can soak it for several hours. 1 garlic clove peel, a cup of mushroom, I chopped it up, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt, pinch of cayenne pepper. I added some more to that because it needed a little more kick. I love yeast, nutritional yeast. So I added, I think it was a tablespoon of nutritional yeast flakes. So add that to the recipe, nutritional yeast flakes, and I put some onion powder and some brags. I put like a tablespoon of brags, just enough brags that it will be, you know, flavored. And I blend it all up. Blended it all up. I did add a thickener to it. I used arrowroot flour, and I put a tablespoon, and I blended it all up, and I put it over slow heat and let it just cook in and thicken, and it tastes delicious. So that is what I use for my gravy. Instead of using all these fats and all of this that we use for gravy, you know, you burn the turkey is roasting, you take that juice from the turkey and you make a gravy with it. But think about it. All that fat is dripped into that juice. And you are eating all that fat that just dripped off of that turkey. So that is not a healthy version of a gravy. This is a more healthier version of a gravy. Then another thing, I love color. Sweet potatoes are wonderful. Sweet potato, just the color of it, it has keratin. We need that for our eyes, vitamin A. Very good source. It has fiber. We need fiber to help with excretion. When we eat, we need to be able to excrete it out. So the fiber helps with that. So you want to add some color to your food. This is a good food to add color. I love sweet potato. I have it at least once a week. I just love it. So I added some sweet potato. I just baked it, did not add anything to it, and it tastes wonderful. You do not have to add anything to it. And oh, I have my pumpkin pie up here. I didn't mean to have that there. Okay, since I have my pumpkin pie here, we're gonna go ahead and talk about it. So I made pumpkin pie. This is my pumpkin pie. The pumpkin pie was made from, I got the canned pumpkin, 15-ounce pumpkin, and I put it in my food processor. To that, I add some arrowroot starch and 3/4 cups of coconut milk. I did not have coconut sugar, so I used palm sugar, which is a low glycemic sugar. And I did not use the maple syrup. In the maple syrup place, I use date sugar. And I will tell you how to make date sugar. And I add a tablespoon of pumpkin spice to the mixture. And I blend it up until it was nice and smooth. And I tasted it to make sure it was sweet enough. I think I did put about a quarter cup of the maple sugar in there. So make it to your taste. If it needs a little bit more sugar to it, then you can. Okay, so why did I use coconut sugar or palm sugar? We know that sugar can add lots of calories. Sugar raises your blood your insulin, and it gives you that yo-yo effect. Your insulin, because you eat that sugar, your insulin is now flowing in your bloodstream. It's the pancreas put out a lot of insulin so it can get that sugar into your cells, because sugar does not belong outside of your cell. It has to go into the cell. And after the pancreas put out that insulin, and the insulin is now floating around in the body, getting that sugar into the cell, the next thing you know, all the sugar is into the cells now, but still you have a high amount of sugar floating around in your system. And that now causes you to have a low blood sugar. So it plummets your blood sugar, and that's when you feel that listless, tired feeling. So after Thanksgiving, we feel so tired and listless because we eat all of that, the pies with all of those simple sugar, the granulated sugar, those simple sugars that we eat, the corn syrup, the even the maple syrup. We eat all those sweeteners, and then it plummets our blood sugar, because the blood sugar is going up and down. The insulin is in the system, putting the sugar into the cells. Once that's done, there's still insulin left, and then the blood sugar even drops. So coconut sugar or palm sugar is a low glycemic. We have heard of glycemic index. And when we have a lower glycemic index food, it takes it a longer time for that, the insulin. It does not produce, it does not cause the pancreas to produce that rapid set of insulin that cause that yo-yo effect. So that's why I use the palm sugar and the maple sugar. So how did I make the maple sugar? I took a cup, 1 cup of maple, not maple, 1 cup, I'm sorry, of dates. I made a date sugar. I took 1 cup of dates. They were pitted, the seeds were out of them, and I put them to sit for 1 hour in a cup of hot water so they can soften, because I'm going to blend it. And then I took maybe 1/4 teaspoon of lemon. Because I'm going to use it for this pie, I put like 1/4 cup of teaspoon of lemon to the mixture. And I blended it all up until it was smooth. Now, I said lemon. So one of the things we need to remember, we need to eat our foods whole. So when I put that lemon, I put the lemon skin, the seed, the whole lemon. I peel the lemon and I cut up the lemon and I put it in a blender, high-speed blender, like if you have a bullet blender. I put it in there and I blend up everything, because we normally put lemon juice and stuff, but we forget the fiber that's in that lemon, the pulp that's in that lemon, the seed that's in that lemon, full of nutritional value. So I put everything in, and whenever I need to add lemon to my food, and what I do, I freeze it. So whenever I need to add lemon to my food, I will go take some of that lemon and add it to the food. I freeze them in small, ice cube container. And I put like a 1/2 teaspoon or so in each one, so that when I need to go to use it, I just might take a 1/2 teaspoon or 2 of those and put it to the food. Let's remember to try to eat our food whole as much as possible. Okay, so I diverted a bit there. So I used that lemon, that date sugar, I blend it all up. And instead of the maple sugar, I use that in my pie. It's a whole food. It is healthier. It has the fiber and everything in there in that maple sugar. So I use that. Sometimes I spread it on my toast. I put it in, something that I want to sweeten. That's a good substitute for sugar, instead of using even the turbinado sugar. All of those sugars, they were processed. They went through a process. Anything that goes through a process, we need to try to keep it out of our diet. So that was the filling for the pie. Now, for the pie crust, I'm sorry. Where's my pie crust? For the pie crust, oh boy. For the pie crust, my friend Josephine gave me a recipe. I kind of added to it. I'm sorry, I thought I had my pie crust on here. So the pie crust, I use almond flour instead of regular flour. I use 1 cup of almond flour. And then I use half a cup of garbanzo bean flour. So that mixture together can hold the pie crust together. And with that, I put a pinch of salt in there, in the flour. And in a separate bowl, I added some, some, oh my goodness, some flakes, some that meal, flaxseed. I'm sorry, flaxseed. I added 4 tablespoons of flaxseed, meal, and I put some water to that, and not water, some apple cider vinegar. I put a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to that, and I mix it. And when it was well mixed in, I added it to the flour mix that I had. And that was my pie crust. Healthy version of a pie crust. You have flaxseed, you have almond flour, and you have garbanzo bean flour and apple cider vinegar. And it's a simple pie crust, but it works. So I put it in my dish. You will have to put some, maybe a little grease on your hand. I put some oil on my hand because to put it and to lay it out in the pie dish, it was sticking to my hand. So I had to put a little oil on there. And I baked it for about 20 minutes before I added the filling. Once it was cool enough, I added the filling and I baked my pie for it baked for about 30, 45 minutes. So that's a healthy version of a pie, healthy pie. Now, our turkey. Cannot have Thanksgiving without turkey. So this is my turkey. My turkey is made from tofu. You will be surprised. Tofu. So I got some tofu. It must be extra firm tofu. It doesn't have to be this brand, but just get some extra firm tofu. I got 2 packs. I put it in my food processor, and in the food processor, I added, but before I put it, I did that. I squeezed the tofu out, all that liquid that's in the tofu. I squeeze it out because I did not want the tofu, my turkey, to be soggy. So I squeezed that as much as I could, and I squeezed the liquid out, and I put it in my food processor. And to that, I added 1/4 cup of tamari. Now, if you don't have that, maybe you can use some soya. I prefer using some brags. I added some garlic. I love garlic, so I added 5 or more cloves of garlic. I mince it. Some tomato paste, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And I use avocado oil, 2 tablespoons. Some poultry seasoning, 1 tablespoon, plus 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, 1 teaspoon of vegan chicken flavored bouillon, and some chickpeas flour. I stir it, blend it up, mix it in until I have a nice stiff dough. Then I took it and I put it in a parchment paper and put another parchment paper on top and rolled it out in an oblong shape. Once I was finished, I put some bread stuffing, because turkey is not finished until it has bread stuffing. So I use a healthier version of bread. I used Ezekiel bread. Now, Ezekiel bread is full of, Ezekiel bread is made with wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millets. It has good, healthy fibers, good, healthy nutrients in it. So I used that. I took the several slices, toasted it, and then cut it up into cubes for my breadcrumbs. And just as a normal, how you make your normal bread, stuffing, you put your celery and onions, saute it, and you add your breadcrumbs to it. So that's what I did. And I put it in here. So I'm going to cut this so you can see what the inside of my turkey look like. You will see bread, it's the bread stuffing. Oops, oops. So the inside, it has the breads, the stuffing, and it looks just like turkey, doesn't it? So this is a healthy version. Instead of the regular, if you're not going to eat meat, you can use this tofu. We know that tofu is healthy. It's a good source of protein. Tofu has, I'm sorry. It's, oh boy, I'm sorry. Tofu is considered the non-GMO. Let's remember, tofu is, or soya is a food that is, if you're not careful, you can consume lots of GMO tofu. Whenever you're looking for tofu, make sure it says organic, because the non-organic tofu, it's full of pesticide and chemicals that you do not want to consume in your body. So make sure you have the organic version of the tofu. So tofu has essential amino acids. These are essential because your body cannot make them, so you have to get them from food. So tofu has all the essential amino acid that your body needs. It provides fat, carbohydrates, and a wide variety of minerals and vitamins. It has like selenium, phosphorus, copper, magnesium, iron, zinc, all of these things that we need for healthy bone development, healthy thyroid function, and our heart functioning, all of these things. Tofu is a good food to supplement for meat. It's low, it has a low calorie index, but it's high in protein and fat. And this is good, healthy fat. So those are just some of the things. There's so many different uses for tofu. And if we really want to get off meat, this is a good substitute to get into, to use tofu. Okay, so that was my, what you call it? Vegetarian roasted turkey, vegan roasted turkey. I think here's my pie crust. I'm sorry. My pie crust was in the wrong place. But this is the pie crust that I made. If you did not get all the information, I will just stop here for a few minutes so you can make sure you got everything. So you got the almond flour, garbanzo bean flour, teaspoon of salt. Be careful with your salt. I had to put less salt in my pie crust because the salt that I use is very salty, I find. When a recipe called for a teaspoon, I have to use half a teaspoon. So be careful. 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a cup of almond milk, and 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and 4 tablespoons of flaxseed meal. I'm sorry. And what you do, you just blend everything together. Blend the blend the flours together with the salt, and then in a separate dish, you mix the liquid and then pour it on, and you are going to have a wonderful, wonderful pie crust. Now, one more thing I have to mention here, and that's the green bean casserole. Green casserole, I made it basically the same like a normal casserole, but what I added, what I did not put in it, I did not use milk. Instead of the milk, I used coconut milk. And I think that was the only thing. And I added some nuts, walnuts to it, and bake it just as usual. So that was the only difference with the casserole. I did not use milk. So this is what my table looked like. At the end, this is what my table looked like. If you come right now and look at my table, I have my pie to the left. Right below here, I have the casserole, and then I have my potatoes, my tofu roast, my cauliflower, and my gravy. Simple. I did not have a lot of stuff added, because we have to remember, we do not want to stuff ourselves. Although it's Thanksgiving, we still need to eat with moderation, because we want to keep that frontal lobe clear at all times. The frontal lobe is the medium of the way we communicate with our maker. Frontal lobe needs to be clear, and Satan knows that. He knows that. So he tries to bring things, food, or not only food, but different things to our attention to affect the frontal lobe. Once our frontal lobe is damaged, we are in problems. So let's eat food that will boost the frontal lobe and not destroy it. Meats have, I think there are 5 amino acids in meats, in meat, that constantly at a tug of war with the brain, with the frontal lobe, and tryptophan. Now, tryptophan is a amino acid that we need for our frontal lobe. But when we eat meat, it's in competition with tryptophan, and it decreases tryptophan, and with that, it affects the frontal lobe. That's why sometimes, especially after we have a turkey dinner, we feel so sluggish, because of all, although tryptophan is in turkey, but there are other amino acids in that meat that is causing a decrease in tryptophan to the brain, that is causing us to feel that sluggish way after eating. So let's eat to live and not live to eat. Any questions? Any questions?
Alicia had her hand up.
Oh, okay. Alicia, go ahead.
I was just thinking about well, some of the things that you're talking about, like the cauliflower and stuff, people who on certain kind of medication can eat those things.
Cauliflower?
Yeah. Cauliflower
has what? A lot of vitamin K?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a substitute to that?
That's a good question. So if you are taking, I think Coumadin is one of the medications that you have to be careful of when you, with vitamin K, because it will affect your Coumadin.
Mm-hmm.
So I do not know. I will have to research that. Can I research that and get back with you, Alicia?
Yes, and the tofu as well too. Tofu is made from soy.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Tofu
yes.
as well.
Yes, yes.
Any stock, as a matter of fact.
Right. Okay. Okay. You know, I always tell people to eat when you are on Coumadin, you need to eat a consistent vitamin K diet. If you're consistently eating a certain amount of foods with vitamin K, then your doctor can regulate your Coumadin. It's not to say because you're on Coumadin you cannot eat greens at all, or you cannot eat, tofu at all. You just have to be on a consistent diet, so it can be easily regulated with your doctor.
Sometimes, well, for me, I just be very particular in eating the greens and stuff, because I doesn't want my iron out to go to the thickening side or even to the thinning side.
Too low.
Right?
Mhm.
Right. So but the last visit I had by my doctor, I went, I think, twice, and it was low to the thinning side. So I asked them, I say, but I try my best. I'm not eating what I'm not supposed to eat and all these things. And the advice was to me, you better try go and eat some of them things that you ain't supposed to eat. So
yeah. Yeah, so I say if you stay on a consistent diet, if you always eat greens, you always stay on a consistent diet, then the doctor can regulate your iron out better.
So question. Every day you're supposed to eat something green. But in a moderate way.
Right. So if you're eating a cup of greens, that's what you need to do. Eating, Coumadin does not mean you cannot eat greens. You just have to be consistent. And let your doctor know what you're doing so that they can have an idea of how to regulate your Coumadin so your iron level can be at the level they want it to be.
Well, thankfully, the last time I went, which was last week, I came home and I thought about it and I said, you gotta start eating something. So I did that, and when I went back, it was just where they wanted it. So yeah.
So you went home and you started eating greens?
Yeah, I will eat the greens, but I does not eat them every single day, just because the fear of it being
low.
Food, right.
Mm-hmm.
So just where I wanted it, it was there.
Is there a dietitian you can work with?
Yeah, I have a dietitian I will visit.
Okay.
But sometimes they do, because of the season that we're in now, I like to call it that way. Sometimes you go according to the time you go, who come to work and they're gone already before 12 o'clock and all of that. So you sometimes if they give you an appointment for 10 o'clock, or well, in my case, the last time I went, I had was to do a blood work, and when I reached here, I said, well, I will ask the nurse if I could do the blood work and stuff. But long story short, those people will come to work early, and if the traffic kind of slow, they just leave and go, and you doesn't get to do where you want to. And you always have to be coming and going.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah.
This is Juliet. I have a question. You were saying that you were supposed to soak the green, something you were supposed to soak.
What was the nuts?
Nuts. Now, how much soaking? Do we put the amount of nuts in it and the water come right above it? How do we do that?
Yeah. Just as how you soak beans. Yeah, it must be totally submerged. So
and I'm sorry, do we discard that water? Some of us don't soak beans. Do we discard that water?
Right. So after you soak it, you need to discard the water, rinse it off, and then you use your nuts. Nuts have some people say it doesn't matter, some people say it does. Nuts have a protective covering over them. So what is it called? Pyridia, something like that. That protects nuts from bugs and so forth getting to them. And some people believe that could be the reason why some people have allergies or sensitive to nuts, is because of that. So it's advisable to soak your nuts before using them. Just like your beans. The beans have that protective covering to protect them from insects. So we soak it for that. One of the reasons we soak our beans is for that. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so everyone got the recipes. Everybody understand how to make these recipes.
Yes.
I hope that our Thanksgiving or our Christmas, some of us don't have Thanksgiving. Christmas. Just think about different ways you can make a healthier dish. That's all. I'm not saying don't eat certain things. It's just make it a bit healthier. Cutting back on the grease, cutting back on the milk. Use a different milk substitute, like a plant-based milk substitute, as we know how milk can cause inflammation. And the milk that we drink today, we have to question it because, you know, they feed these animals with lots of hormones so that they can fatten them, the cows. They also feed them lots of chemicals in the feed, and all of that stays in the milk. So, and I always say, look at a cow, a calf, look at how large a calf is compared to even an adult. They weigh hundreds of pounds more than us. The molecules from the milk is much larger than the molecules from human milk. Cows do not feed on milk when they are mature, only the calf. And once the calf is weaned, they do not drink milk anymore. But we humans feel that we need to drink milk all the time throughout our lives, and we run into problems. But think of alternatives that we can use for milk. Okay, if we do not have any more questions, I'll move on.
One other thing, the potatoes, right?
Yeah.
How you get it to bake? You wrap it in something, or you just put them in the oven like that to bake?
I wrapped it in parchment paper. Let me see what parchment paper. I wrap it in something called parchment paper. Something like this.
Yeah.
If you don't have parchment paper, maybe you can just use brown paper. And I also use my foil paper. I do not like putting food next to foil. If I'm going to use foil paper, I always have something covering it, like parchment paper, then I add the foil. Because that aluminum can leak into the food.
Oh, that is what I was going to ask, because some people like to use foil paper, just the bare foil paper.
Right. I do not. I always wrap it in parchment paper. And then I put the foil people.
Emilyn, do you, when you do your sweet potatoes, do you put any type of olive oil on the skin of it?
I did not with this, but you can do that. Yeah. So that will bake in and give this potato a flavor. Yeah.
Emilyn, you did a really wonderful job on the presentation. I can't
Yeah.
wait to come to dinner.
Well, you're welcome. I would put this all up and you can come over tomorrow for dinner. Not for dinner, for
Yeah.
brunch.
So much. Emilyn, I really do want to thank you for preparing this meal. This is the information that we need to make sure that we can eat to live for Thanksgiving,
Amen.
for Christmas, for any holiday, and every day, actually. But so thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to share this information with us. I've taken pictures of the recipe, so I have exactly what I need to prepare a healthy Thanksgiving dinner.
You're most welcome. Yes.
So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Em, so we can do prayer requests. I'm going to stop the recording.